Over the 15 different Spider-Man movies, there have been many different villains. Some great ones, some bad ones, some weird ones. So I'm going to rank them all on this tier list, starting with Green Goblin. Norman Osborn is one of the all-time best Spidey villains. Not only is he incredibly threatening and really strong and good at doing front flips, but he also drives a wedge between Peter and Harry that develops over the entire trilogy. And it goes without saying, Willem Dafoe is phenomenal in this role, especially when he comes back in No Way Home. He's going in S tier. J. Jonah Jameson is another all-timer. J.K. Simmons is one of my favorite actors, and he has so many great moments. I will say though, I love that they brought him back for the MCU, but I hate this version of the character. He went from a respected journalist who reported actual news to a balding whack job Alex Jones wannabe, so I'm gonna put him in A tier. Doc Ock is the best Spider-Man villain, both in Spider-Man 2 as well as in No Way Home. He is one of the most sympathetic and understanding villains in any comic book movie, and Alfred Molina delivers the performance of a lifetime. I still think about this line.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Unmatched line delivery. Another easy S tier. Now we have Harry Osborn as the new Goblin. As a villain, he's pretty meh. Because Spider-Man 3 had to make room for all the other villains, they gave Harry the amnesia storyline, so you never really had the chance to be a real villain. But it was still pretty cool to see him team up with Peter at the end, and his sacrifice was reasonably sad, so I'm gonna throw him in B tier. Sandman is such a solid character. He has understandable motivations of trying to provide for his daughter. The effects for his powers are really cool, and that scene in the Collider is flat out amazing, but the extra lore around him killing Uncle Ben feels unnecessary, so I'm going to put him in A tier. Oh boy, this is gonna be controversial. I think the Topher Grace Venom is awesome, and I'm not sorry. I think this is the perfect Venom adaptation for a mid-2000s Spider-Man movie. He's the ultimate hater. Going to a church specifically to ask God to kill someone else is next level loathing. And the symbiote Spider-Man stuff is iconic. The costume, the music, the dancing.
Know me as the Rizzler. I'm the Panther dressed in black.
Now this version of Venom isn't particularly deep. He's not a completely fleshed out character, but he's still the epitome of awesome, so he's going in A tier. The Lizard is one of the funniest villains in any comic book movie because as Dr. Curtis Connors, he has a reasonable motivation. He lost an arm and feels incomplete, so he's working on some lizard juice that will grow his arm back. But as a lizard, he wants to turn all of New York City into lizards so they become members of the lizard master race. It's too goofy to really take seriously, but at least the CGI is well done, so the Lizard is going in C tier. Don't you know, I'm Electro is next up and he's so lame. He hates Spider-Man because the voices in his head make him believe Spidey betrayed him or whatever, and his design is just awful. He looks like a jellyfish, and there's so much about him that is just hilarious. The electricity fixing the gap in his teeth, how Max looks before he gets his powers, and the fact that he's only a villain because he formed a parasocial relationship. He's basically a Twitch viewer. In a different world, he's a villain because of XQC, not Spider-Man.
I've seen some of these documentaries. I haven't none of that. Hey, the game government and no getting
But I will say he is much more improved in No Way Home. He has a better design, a better personality, a better everything. So because of that, he can't go in D tier, so he's going in C. Oh boy, the Dane DeHaan Green Goblin truly is something. Let's talk about this design for a minute. Why did they decide to make him look like this? It looks like he has some sort of infectious disease. And his story is so boring. There are too many awkward scenes of him and Peter being dude bros.
That's a question. That's a question.
And the whole plotline of him trying to get Spider-Man's blood to fix his Osborn disease is silly at best. I will give him credit for successfully killing a Spider-Man love interest. He is the only villain able to do it. So, good for him, I guess. He's really an awful villain, and he's going in D tier. Oh yeah, the Rhino's in this movie too. This guy feels like an afterthought, and I love Paul Giamatti in other movies, but he is really bad here. He's also going in D tier. Now we're moving on to the MCU Spider-Man villains with the Shockers. Both of these characters are pretty lame secondary antagonists, but Shocker A died, so he's going in D tier, and Shocker B is going in C tier. But the Vulture is an exceptional villain. Despite him being just a guy with mechanical wings, he remains one of the most intimidating Spider-Man villains to date, solely based on Michael Keaton's performance. Seriously, that scene in the car between him and Peter is next level, and he also has understandable motivations and a sick design. It sucks that he's getting roped into whatever the heck Sony's doing, but still, he's an S tier villain. But before we move on to Venom and beyond, I just want to say, if you've enjoyed this video so far, why not hit that subscribe button? We're making our way to 100,000 subs, and once we hit that goal, I will drop a ranking of the entire Star Wars franchise. Make sure you're subscribed so that video can happen. Now let's move on to the next Spidey villain. Now Venom in his own movie isn't really a villain, he's the hero of his own story. But still, I feel like he should be included, and I think this Venom is solid. There's a lot of fun to be had between him and Eddie. It's really funny to me how this Eddie Brock is sickly, sweaty, and gross all the time. And despite not having the spider logo, this is still a fantastic design. It's just a real shame that this Venom doesn't have any great movies. The best he got was mid, so he's gotta go in A tier. Riot and Carlton Drake are the main villains from the first Venom movie, and these guys flat out suck. Carlton is a lame billionaire villain, and Riot, blah blah blah, insert 6 months meme here. These guys are going in D tier. Next up, we have the not so official Sinister Six from Into the Spider-Verse, and a few of these villains only exist to be cool and for the lesser spider people to fight. So Green Goblin, Scorpion, and Tombstone are all going in C tier. Olivia Octavius has a little more characterization. I think she definitely has her moments, but still, she's B tier at best. Now the Prowler is pretty awesome. First of all, he has that theme song. But also, Aaron Davis is a really well-developed character in his own right, and he has an incredible role in the story as the one who pushes Miles to become Spider-Man, much like how Uncle Ben did for Peter. And the design is spectacular. S-tier villain all day, every day. The Kingpin isn't quite on the same level as Prowler, but he's still a solid main villain. His motivations are completely understandable. He wants to find a reality where his family is still alive. His design is unbeatable. I mean, look at him. He's thicker than all the Pixar moms combined, and just the memes that come from this guy are wonderful.
Excuse me, do you mind?
He's going in A tier. Now we have what is probably the most hated Spider-Man villain of all time, Mysterio. Everyone goes on and on about how this version of Mysterio sucks because he's just a lame Iron Man villain, and he's only a villain because Tony never gave him the proper credit and called his tech barf. But here I am with the most based and red-pilled opinion ever. Mysterio has always sucked. They could have done anything with this character and he still would have been terrible. It's like trying to fix up a house with a cracked foundation. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors, and even he can't save this abomination of a character, so he's going in D tier. Next up, we have Carnage from Venom Let There Be Carnage. This might be another hot take, but I actually really like this version of the character. I think Woody Harrelson gave a really solid performance. I think the design is awesome. It's really cool how he's actually bigger than Venom, and he has one of the coolest roars ever. He does get knocked some points for Cletus and Carnage being two different people. That really made the character so much worse in my opinion, but still, he's a solid B tier. I don't have much to say about Shriek. I think her storyline with the detective was really unnecessary, but she was the perfect complementary piece to Cletus, and together they make for a pretty solid duo. So I'm going to put her right next to him in B tier. Now, I have yet to actually watch Morbius, so I'm going to make an educated guess and put Morbius in D tier, and put Matt Smith Vampire in C tier, only because that dance was pretty funny.
From the screen to the ring to the pen.
Next up, we have Vulture from Across the Spider-Verse, and I think he's just like the other secondary villains from the first movie, so I'm going to put him in C tier. The Spot is such a cool villain. They took one of Spider-Man's lamest villains and turned him into a multiversal threat who's actually kinda scary.
What am I doing? I'm saying the N-word.
I don't think you can legally say that.
The animation for his powers is phenomenal, and I like how he was used in the film as a means to show different universes in the multiverse, including the Venom multiverse where we get to see a Mrs. Chen cameo. He's going in A tier. Spider-Man 2099 is the best part of Across the Spider-Verse. As an antagonist, his motivations make sense, and you can even argue that he's right. There's a lot of well-told backstory with the family he lost. Oscar Isaac's vocal performance is spot on, and just like Prowler, he has an incredible theme song. He's going in S tier. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders just before she died. Yeah, this guy's going in D tier. I don't even remember what his name was. And finally, from the newest Spider-Man film, we have Null, who pretty much just sits in the chair the whole time. He does present some threat by sending those aliens after Venom and Eddie, but beyond that, he's pretty whatever. C tier. And that's the tier list. How would you rank the Spider-Man villains? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to watch another ranking, you can click here to watch my video on the 15 scariest SpongeBob episodes. Or you can click on this video that YouTube picked out just for you.